I made and deleted this video already. But it's really difficult to do this video because I just did one about terrorism. And that's a far more serious topic, but it's not necessarily more significant. So I found a link, I think it was on MSN News. I posted on my Facebook if you go there today, otherwise you're going to have to go through an indefinite volume of angst in order to find it. But a Japanese billionaire, a bank president, CEO, he's basically the king of Japan by the sounds of it. I'm not going to look into him, and you should. Interesting guy. Masayoshi started investing in Alibaba. Now, I'm not sure if Alibaba makes mechs, but that's instantly exactly the only thing that's coming to my mind, because that would be very important and crucial to discuss. So, I'm going to. Now, as much as I want to take the time out to advertise for MSN and explain how much I actually have an affinity for and appreciate rich people. Because I'm not opposed to billionaires. I'm not rich, and I'm not jealous. That's not what this is about. But when you have tycoons that have armies of mercenaries, or they're selling things to other rich people, you end up with a significant problem with social inequality, which results in enmity. And enmity is a significant topic of discussion. So there's multiple different things to go over here. First, the social consequences of enmity, resources, the actual design of the mech, and its application or whereabouts in modern society as it is. So let's go through these one by one. First, comparing a national army that has mechs, like the US military, the Russian military, the Chinese military, that's completely different than considering mercenary groups or privately owned mechs. Having privately owned mechs would be a threat to the social standing. Having military application is just common sense. Dying in a mech suit in a warfield would suck far more, I'm assuming, than not being in one, but you'd slightly feel less stupid, and that doesn't mean mechs don't have viable application for non-violent confrontations, because that's the point. A mech can forego violence by being impermeable, despite the fact that in modern warfare, people have, armor-piercing rounds. So, the major issue there and the difference is that privately owned mechs would be a significant issue. So let's go into that one. Okay. If you have privately owned mechs, you have social inequality that would result in anger and depression and anxiety, which leads to bigotry. Enmity is a huge thing. And enmity is one of those things that starts wars. It's civil wars, external wars, family wars. You end up with terrible things. And when you have a rich person that has a mech, you get poor people that flock to them. And you end up with a form of sex trafficking where they fucking chuck people through false pretenses, and the people have hopes and everything because they're naive children. People are children, essentially. So when you're going towards the rich person and he's abusing and using you through propaganda and false advertising and fake news because they control the media, because we're talking about the billionaires, you end up with a problem that will inevitably result in the complete collapse of your society. Enslaving people to a system doesn't work. You end up with diseases and famine and poverty, and there are real people that are smart despite their naivety, and they create their own conflicts, which you'll inevitably have to deal with, which is a shame, because mechs are supposed to be about the future. So talking about the future, if we burn all our gasoline and all our diesel, we won't be able to mine for resources under the earth. It will be next to impossible to ever mine the resources of the earth if we burn all our gasoline and diesel. Not only that, we won't be able to fly, so we won't be able to inhabit other planets, so we'd be throwing away our future. Just because we like driving cars like brain-dead imbeciles and flying planes like retards, we're going to run out of natural resources. We won't be able to mine, we won't be able to fly, we won't be able to colonize, we'll be screwed. So, when you have a mech, you don't want to be using diesel. And rich people naturally assume that that's optimum. You've got powerful mechs. And that's not the way to think, especially when you can use the same mechanical advantages and mechanisms that make perpetual motion viable. You can create a mech that uses no energy, and it's just perfectly simulated. So, when you go into the design of mechs, not only do you have to worry about the fuel that you're using, you have to make sure that you don't use hydraulics that are going to tear your limbs and everything. I got that from a Halo novel. I don't know if I ever would have thought of it otherwise, but you will destroy your joints and your limbs and your muscles if you have a performance-enhancing suit that's not adapted, not designed for you. Not even designed for a human, designed for you. And you don't want to overextend and break your limbs and stuff by going back the wrong way because it's heavy, like when you fall or something. So that's major issues to consider there. Big topic of discussion. I've designed tons of mechs, and the perpetual motion aspect of it is factually plausible. You just use cams and other... Okay, so, moving on. Social equality. The only logical way you can sell mechs is to make it so that they're all of equal caliber. You might have the luxury editions where it costs more because they got nicer interiors, they got more gadgets and everything. But if you have difference in the power ratios of your mech, you're going to create enmity. You're going to want to forego that at all costs. So you're not going to want to have the powerful, rich version of the mech, because that isn't going to work. And if you're intentionally selling mechs to rich people to fund and sponsor the startup of your company, you're going to result in the exact same thing, where they're not getting out to the people. And the social calamity will be awful. So it's not... Obviously, there's a problem where you got fucking fascist mech army just enslaving your population and harvesting off the good-looking people or whoever they want to fuck and everything because they're competing with poor people. But just what culture does to your mind in the form of depression is a major thing. So I'm hoping people want to talk about this, because this is something I actually work on a lot. And this billionaire, I just had this fanatical impression that the first thing that everyone would be thinking when a billionaire is investing in a Chinese tech company is mechs. So get back to me on that if you want to discuss it. So discuss it. Subscribe if you think the topic's interesting. And we're going to move on to some pretty interesting stuff, I hope, soon.